to Limestone County Sports. I am your host, Greg Wise, and this is Big Money.
Jay Vassar.
That's what they call him on the streets. We are talking Limestone County football this week, getting down to the end of the season here, Jay. Some of our teams are already done. We'll start off talking about those teams, and then got a couple teams that are looking for the first round of playoffs in 2 weeks, so we'll mention those as well. Was you at a game this past week, Jay?
I was at Athens and Decatur.
Yeah, that was at Athens, correct?
Yes.
And that game went as expected. Athens didn't have their hands full at all with Decatur.
I tell you, Decatur's got some big dudes.
Yeah.
Some 6'2", 6'3" guys.
Yeah.
Just they're young, and they're not playing together for some reason.
They got new coach Ritter come over from
Ritter,
Russellville. It's now the head coach at Decatur. And we'll go into a little bit more details about that game when we get to it.
So my good friend Jeremy Mitchell is the principal at Decatur. He helped coach at East for a couple years with Coach Pugh. Mm-hmm. He was telling me that the bunch they're waiting on is the middle school team. The middle school team was undefeated this year, so they got some dudes on that team.
Good numbers, I guess.
Yeah.
That's kind of like Ardmore when Snyder got there. That at the time it was about the 7th grade, 8th grade class had about 28 in it. All them kids are now sophomores, and a lot of those kids are the ones that you're hearing their names on Friday nights.
And he was telling me too, as long as we don't get them poached out by other schools,
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Decatur's in is West Morgan.
Yeah.
From just what I've heard, I know West Morgan's sitting at the top of 4A football in the whole state, and they're poaching some of them kids from Decatur. Austin is doing that as well. Austin's got on a good run this year also, and so they just say, "Hey guys, won't you just come over here and play on a little bit better team?" And sometimes that happens.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, Jay, jumping right in this past week, West Limestone, their final game of the season. I think we discussed last week they were still in the playoff hunt, but they needed to win, and they needed some other things to happen. I think none of those things happened. No. Obviously, they didn't win, so that really didn't matter if any of those other things happened or not. But anyway, they went on the road to Brooks. It was 38-16 at half, and then Brooks put them away 41-18.
Yeah, and I hadn't heard nothing what went on over there, but it just sounded like Brooks was in control the whole way. So.
Yeah. I know West seemed to, throughout the year, kind of struggle on the offensive side of the ball. Traditionally, over the last 5 years or so, they've been really, really good on the offensive side of the ball. Lost some big pieces last year. And then this year, I know they had a kid move in, but I think he had to play JV. Yeah. They had this big receiver on the JV squad. I know we played him twice on JV, and I seen him. He's a good-looking kid. Mm-hmm. And I just assumed he was ineligible on the varsity side, so maybe they'll get him back our next year. They finish up 4-6. West does 3-5 in the region. That bumped them all the way down to number 6 in the region. Again, we've talked about it several times. That's a 9-team region. Yeah. They got to play 8 region games, and so that doesn't leave a lot of space for those out of region games where you can pick up some wins. And so they finished up 4-6. I think that was probably under the what we had predicted at the end of the season. The over and under on them was maybe about 5 or 6 wins. I'd have to go back and check that out. But with that tough region that they're in, man, it's tough to get to 500.
And I know he had some injuries early in the year with a quarterback, and he had about 12, 14 seniors, so that's why I thought they might go further than what they did. So,
Yeah, now they again, kind of like you were talking about with Decatur, he's got some young dudes. I've seen their middle school and JV teams, and so better days ahead. Not that this year was that bad. I know 4-6 in there. Yeah, they've been pretty much 5-5, right around 500, making the playoffs, in the playoff hunt. And again, they were in the playoff hunt up until their last game. That was their last game. Yeah. They got technically a bye week this last week, and so that ended up the season. So West Limestone is full speed ahead at basketball, and don't know if anybody knows it or not, they're pretty good at basketball.
Oh, yeah. Coach Taylor does a great job over there with those guys. He gets all the effort out of them. So.
Yeah, they won a state championship a few years back.
Yeah, 20
And I think there's also runner-up. Was they runner-up the year before and then come back?
Yeah, and they come back and won it, yeah.
Yeah, with Coach Taylor over there does a fantastic job of basketball. Hopefully in a few weeks we can start talking a little bit of Limestone County basketball with you. But moving on from that game, we'll go right down the road a little bit to the Clements Colts. They had a very tough game to end their season. They was at Mars Hill. Mars Hill is, number 2 in 3A, I think. And they were up 41-0 at the half and finished off that game 62-6. That got Clements 1-9 on the season, 0-7 in region play in Brick Pugh's first year down at Clements.
Yeah, he's going to have to. I think he's going to have to get in the hallways, get some more kids out, because I know Coach Legg told me there's some kids out there, some kids that walk in the halls that needs to be playing. So.
Yeah, and I think Brick will be able to do that. You know, he's a young guy. He's very relative with the kids that are walking down the hall, so he can start to do that immediately. Is he going to be coaching anything else, maybe helping out with baseball or doing anything?
I don't know. I'll have to ask him, but I don't know for sure, to be honest with you.
Yep. And ending with Mars Hill, buddy, that's a tough game to end the season with. I know one thing that Brick will be able to do is, tweak his scheduling moving forward. Like he's off this week. This is one of their bye week, I guess. And so he could move some of those games around where you're not facing Mars Hill the last game of the season. They could maybe move the Tanner game because Tanner has a non-region game this week as well. And have a very competitive or a good gate game.
And that's the thing. When Coach Parker made the schedule out, he made 3 straight home games.
Yeah.
And then they had to go on the road for like 4 games and then come back and play 1 home game. And so it's tough. It's tough when you do that.
Yep. But nonetheless, Clements got 1 win on the season and looking for improvement from the Colts heading into next season. Don't know if they plan on doing spring or not.
I don't know.
Yeah, most of those coaches don't make those decisions until they get into the spring. A lot of it rides on if their baseball team's making playoffs and other things like that.
Not only Coach Pugh, but I imagine the rest of the 3A region over there hopes Mars Hill moves up.
So. Yeah, Elkmont's in that region. Clements is in that region, not to mention Lauderdale County and all the rest of those dogs. And Mars Hill is just annihilating everybody, as we've talked about on this show several times. They beat Russellville, who's 5A. Yeah. And so now they're going to have Mars Hill again next year, no matter what. Oh, yeah. This was the first year of the 2-year reclassification, so they get them next year no matter what. And Clements will have them in the same hole on the schedule no matter what. They'll just be at home. But I would try to maybe move one of them non-region games to the last game instead of playing Mars Hill last game. So most of those things rotate every 2 years, so I don't know if they'll be able to do that or not. Hopefully so. Moving on, Tanner. Was at Red Bay. Tanner had the shot to get in the playoffs. That was a de facto play-in game in 2A. Red Bay and Tanner was both coming in with 1 region win. The winner made the playoffs. The loser did not, and Red Bay put it on Tanner pretty good, 46-6. It was 38-6 at half. We talked about that game. Thought it might be a little tighter than that, but Red Bay handled business.
Yeah, they did, and I figured going into that, Tanner needing to win to get in the playoffs. I just thought that maybe they could pull it out.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but it wasn't meant to be, I don't guess.
Yeah. We've mentioned several times on this show. Lost a lot of seniors last year.
Yeah, 16.
Got a lot of young guys, and so, sky's the limit for those players and coaches down there. They were finished up at 2-7, 1-4 in the region, and again, just 1 game away, 1 win away from making the playoffs. And as we've seen Tanner do several years, they've had really, really good teams, and then really, really not really, but kind of average teams, but they would get in the playoffs and then make a run. Yeah. And so hopefully they can get back to that. They ended up 5th in that region in 2A. They do got another game this week at home, and so they get to finish up their season at home. They be playing 1A Sweetwater. Sweetwater comes in at 7-2, and they are a 39-point favorite, which I found odd. I looked at their schedule. They must be from down south somewhere because they're playing a lot of teams that I've never heard of. Again, they're 1A. But to be a 39-point favorite at Tanner, they must have a heck of a football team.
I think they've won a few titles, hadn't they?
Sweetwater,
I think so. They played in some because I think I remember that.
Yeah, not sure, but they must have a pretty good football team to be a 39-point favorite over a bigger classification team. Does Tanner hold it within 39?
I'm gonna say yeah.
I'm going to say they do too. I think they're going to play hard last game of the season. It is at home. Those seniors, hopefully, it'd be awesome if they win.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll play hard, get it going, and get some momentum going into the offseason and into next year. Again, they did finish fifth in the region and missed the playoffs by that last game last week. Moving on, East was at Fairview, and exactly what we assumed would happen. Fairview was up 28-0 at halftime. Fairview finished off 42-0. That got East to 1-8 on the season. Their lone win coming against West Limestone in the which hurricane was that? We've had two hurricanes.
It was
that
Helene?
Helene. That was in Hurricane Helene. They won that game, and that was the only win they got. They're 1-8 and 0-6 in region play. They got eliminated from region play 2 or 3 weeks ago, but they do have one more home game as well. They got Shelby County coming to town, which is not a slouch either. No. Shelby County comes in at 7-2 also. I think they're a 2 seed in their region. I think they're 5A down south, and they are a 25-point favorite against the Indians. Does the Indians keep it within 25?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think they had a little bit of wind in their sails, after West had some tough opponents and played really, really hard against Ardmore for about 3 quarters. And then, Ardmore turned on the gas in the fourth quarter and got away from them and ended up beating East by 18. But keeping Shelby County within 25 is going to be tough. I don't think they do it. I'd like to see them do it, but don't think they will, and that will end up the season for the Indians over at East Limestone.
So, I hate it. Like we always said about Coach Johnson coming in as late as he did and trying to put in what he wanted to run and just, getting to know everybody. It was just a tough season overall for him, but they played hard as they could for him, and hopefully – they'll get back to work and workouts over the winter and get ready to go next year. They
got a lot of young dudes, too. I know they were in the county championship in middle school. Ardmore ended up winning that at East Limestone. I think it was a 3-way tie between Ardmore, East, and West for that county championship. I think they did a coin flip or something. Ended up being Ardmore and East, which, from what I was told, were the 2 better teams. Mm-hmm. And then East was up early, I think 16-6, something like that. Ardmore come back and beat them 20-6. Had a goal line stop at the end of the game to win it. So Ardmore and East both still have a lot of young dudes playing middle school ball. And so those kiddos will be moving up to the varsity and JV level pretty soon.
They'll be playing hard against one another for the next 4 years. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Rogers was at Elkmont. Halftime of that game, 0-0.
I saw that, and I'm like,
yeah, they're getting after it, man. Because, Rogers is 3 seed in that region behind Mars Hill and Lauderdale County. Yeah. And I think we was going in. It was I can't remember the spread on that game, but it was maybe 20. And we were hoping Elkmont could keep it close. And then, my friend texted me and said, hey, it's 0-0 at halftime. And I was like, let's go. Them boys playing. Yeah. And then to go – no points on either side in the first half. The teams combined for 43 in the second half. Rogers came out on top 35-8.
I know I didn't see Coach Shrink at church Sunday, so we didn't get a chance to talk to him either.
So, Coach Shrink, if you were not at church on Sunday, we're calling you out.
Well,
but maybe it's 1,000 people here. Maybe we just missed you.
We probably did miss you, but usually you give me the roundabout update of what happened. So, but you got one more to go.
Yeah,
to redeem that loss. So
yeah, they Elkmont finishes up 2-7, 1-6 in region play, and unfortunately, they got probably the biggest rivalry game for them is Ardmore because it's 10, 15 miles up the road. Most of those kiddos are either kin to each other or know each other very, very well. Yeah. Always big rivalry in every sport. It's kind of got stretched out over football in the last few years. It's not been as competitive as it used to be, but they do go to Ardmore this week as a 38-point underdog. We're not going to take you pick on that, Jay, just yet, because we are going to jump over to Ardmore. Ardmore, we're going to save Ardmore and Athens for the last two teams that we're going to talk about.
And talking about that rivalry, you know both sides of it now. So.
Yeah. I played in the rivalry as a Red Devil, and we hated Ardmore, so much so that my kids, the Lord blessed us with a house in the Johnson Elementary School District, and we lived there for about 18 years. Our kids went to Johnson. We would almost never put on Ardmore gear until we just had to. Now, Brody played some little peewee football, so he had on Ardmore stuff, so we put on Ardmore stuff. But any other time outside of that, we're wearing royal blue Johnson gear. And then once our kids get up the road, hey, we sold out now because now the Lord's got us at Ardmore. My wife works there. I've had a kid graduate from there. Got two more, 10th grader and an 8th grader, so fully vested in where the Lord has us in that community.
He moves
and getting
in mysterious ways.
He does. He does. And so we are, we're bleeding black and gold right now.
I had 3 years I was up there with Coach Legg. I had to experience that rivalry, and it is tough. It's
well, see, that's the thing. We were talking about some of the games. When we went over to East Limestone a couple weeks ago, man, it just didn't have the feel of this big rivalry game, especially from the home side at East. They've won that game for 16 or 15 years in a row. 15 years, it was 12 games or 11 games, I think. And, man, that place was just dead. I know, hadn't had a lot of success this year. That plays into those things, but it just – I felt like it would be jumping to be a big rivalry game, and it just didn't have that feel. And I was like, well, I bet you the Elkmont-Ardmore game's going to have it, because Elkmont's going to travel 10 miles down the road to watch their kids play the last game of the season. It's going to be a packed house. Both sides is going to be there, all the bands, all the cheerleaders, and it's going to be a great electric atmosphere, even for those kids at Elkmont to those seniors to end their career on.
Yeah, it's always fun, especially those 3 years we were up there. And good luck to both teams, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we already mentioned Elkmont, a 38-point underdog to the Ardmore Tigers. Do the Ardmore Tigers cover 38?
Yeah,
I think they do too. We're going to talk about the West Point game. The West Point came to town at Ardmore last week. That was a de facto play-in game as well. If West Point wins, they're into the playoffs. If Ardmore wins, they're into the playoffs. Loser automatically out. And so going into the game, we tailgated a lot outside the gate. If you're listening, you're an Elkmont Ardmore fan, come to the tailgate right outside the front gate beforehand. We're out there about 5 o'clock every Friday night. Gumbo, shrimp bowl. I mean, we had tenderloins, all kind of stuff going on. And the parents are like, man, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous about this game. I just wish I knew the outcome of this game so I could really enjoy the game. And it was a little tight off the get-go, but we come out of the gate really, really quick. You mentioned on the show last week, Bryant Wales, the offensive coordinator at Ardmore, needed to get it rolling. That wasn't your terminology. I'm paraphrasing.
Something like that.
Yeah, hey, Wales, need to get it going so we can get to the playoffs. After first drive, big play, score. Second drive, I think it's second drive, big play, score. Wales comes running by, and he just hollers, tell your buddy I heard him. And I said, what? And he said, your buddy that does your podcast with you. Tell him I heard him. And I was like, awesome. I'll let him know. And they were up 20-0, really going into the locker room. And then West Point got the ball, had a pass interference, got the ball down about the 2 or 3 yard line. They punch it in with like just a few seconds to go. Made it 20-6 at the half, which was good.
Yeah.
For Coach Snyder, because he was fired up and livid at his defense, which is what he prides himself in. And so that gave him some fire going into the locker room. If you go in the locker room 20-0, it's a good day.
Yeah.
You go in the locker room 26, just giving up a touchdown that should have never happened.
Oh, yeah.
That got him probably where they needed to be at halftime, and they come out at after the half and just showed out and ended up winning that game 27-13 and securing their spot in the first round of the playoffs. Do you know where Ardmore will be playing Ramsey, who is – Ardmore's the 3 seed in their region. That region matches up with, I think it's the Region 5. Yeah. Birmingham, that's Corner, Carver, Winona, Ramsey. Ramsey is the number 2 seed. Somehow,
the Rams.
Miraculously, Corner beat Ramsey in the regular season. I don't know how that happened. So Corner was the 1, Ramsey was the 2. Corner would probably have been a better matchup for us. But if Corner can beat Ramsey, hey, anybody can beat him. Nonetheless, Ramsey is number 2, and apparently they play their home games at Legion Field.
There you go.
So the Ardmore Tigers will be headed down to Legion Field, not this Friday. They play at home, play Upmont next Friday. They'll be headed down to Legion Field in some charter buses with a whole crowd of folks to play Ramsey in the first round of the playoffs. How cool is that?
That's
if you're
cool.
A 9th, 10th grade kid? I mean, it's cool for all of them, but if you're a 9th, 10th grade kid just starting to worked into the varsity football program, and you look around and you're standing on the artificial turf at Legion Field.
And like, the younger kids wouldn't know it like we would.
Right.
That, the Tide played there.
Yeah.
All them Iron Bowl games.
Yeah, well, that's what I got. I got one of those commemorative Iron Bowl big, huge books that's got all these pictures and stuff in it. I just thought about it this morning that I've got it at the house. I'm going to lay it on the kitchen table and just flip it open to like the old Iron Bowl photos and stuff of Legion Field. And so when my son comes in, I'll be like, hey, son, this is where you're going to be playing football. And somebody had asked me, Greg, when was the last time you was in Legion Field? The last time I was in the Legion Field, I think, was around 03, 04. It was some rinky-dink game, maybe Southern Miss, MTSU, something like that. We had seats so low that we couldn't even see over the players' heads, but we took our kids. We're just having a good time. We ended up winning the game, but the biggest game I remember being at Legion Field was the first ever SEC championship game in 1992. My good buddy I graduated high school with, Brandon Reese, his stepdad gave him 2 tickets, and he took me with him. Buddy, you talking about a ball game. Oh, yeah. We were sitting under – I can tell you exactly where we were sitting at, under the overhang of the upper deck, and watching Teague and Langham pick off passes and run them back for touchdowns. If I'm not mistaken, the final score of that game was 28-21.
Yeah.
Pretty close. But that's the biggest game I ever remember being at Legion Field.
Well, that year I was at the Iron Bowl, 92.
Really?
And I was like sitting in like the 5th or 6th row behind Auburn's bench.
Huh.
And
well, that's fun.
Yeah. So it was on Thanksgiving Day.
Man, that's good.
It was 16-0.
That's good. Well, see, that was the game before I was there.
Yeah.
So you were been there for the Iron Bowl game, because that would have been the last game of the season.
That was my first Iron Bowl.
Nice.
That was the day. That was the day after Coach Dye announced his retirement.
Now that was that was not. What year was that?
92.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Because they played on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, I remember those games. And so I would have been there the next week for the SEC championship game, and then that's the year Alabama went on to win the Natty with Curry and Copeland on the defensive side. Who was quarterback? Jay Barker. And went down and beat Miami in the Sugar Bowl. That's when Teague walked down the Williams kid from Miami, wasn't it? Yeah. And took the ball from him.
Thomas.
Yes, that's correct. Walked him down, took the ball from it. Hey, how odd is it that we remember this much details about football games from, 32 years ago?
Yeah.
We're weirdos. No, 31
full of
years
knowledge,
ago.
Though.
I don't know if it's good knowledge, Jay, but nonetheless.
Well, it just shows how much we love the Tide.
Yeah, well, that's what I keep telling people, man, about, all these football games and Ardmore football. I'll say weird stuff like you used to say about Alabama. Hey, he's got too much Bama in him. I just got too much Ardmore in me right now, boys. Ardmore not finishes. They're not done yet. They got one more game. They're currently 7-2, 4-2 in the region. Again, that put them in third place in the region. Fairview 1, Russellville 2, Ardmore 3. Lawrence County rounds that out. Just random fact also, after 9 games, they are currently number 10 in 5A in the state defensively. Still holding on to a top 10 defensively. Defense has showed out. And do want to give Bryant Wells, our offensive coordinator, a shout out. But he turned it up last week. Did a lot of stuff that nobody's seen.
You're welcome, Bryant.
Yeah. Thanks to Jay Vassar, Bryant Wells turned it up. Seen a lot of things we have not seen on film. A lot of different things out of the backfield. Had 20 and 42 on the field at the same time, which have been on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
But they're, faking one, handing off to the other, just doing a lot of creative things that we hadn't been able to see yet, and that's going to pay off big time this week against Elkmont and obviously moving into the Ramsey game. If they're going to play with Ramsey, who, if I'm not mistaken, has been close to the title game, if not winning the title in the last 2 or 3 years at Legion Field. They're going to have to be creative and do some things that nobody's seen on film yet.
So if a win by Ardmore, does that mean they host the next week, or does it just depend on how it goes?
That always depends on, like, if a 3 beats a 2, and you would think a 1 would beat a 4. The 1 had just played at home, so the 1 would go to the 3s.
Okay.
So you would host. The only way it would not work out is if the 3 won, the 3 beat the 2 seed and the 4 beat the 1 seed. I don't know how they figure out which one of those 3 or 4 seeds hosts. I would I just had to look it up. I don't know. I don't want to assume nothing.
Let's get this one out of the way first.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what we're talking about. Hey, if Ardmore hosts a playoff game, that has never happened.
Yeah.
Ardmore's never made it out of the first round. But we're going to have to get some more paint. We don't have enough.
Oh, you're out of paint for the eye.
Well, we've got paint for this week.
Oh, okay.
But we would have to make an emergency phone calls, round up some more paint. And the reason I say that is we've been telling these kids for the 5-6 years that I've been up there painting the field, 5 years, that if they would host a playoff game, we'll paint the end zones.
Okay.
They used to checkerboard the end zones, kind of like Tennessee's, but it's black and gold checkered. Mm-hmm. And some of them's request, hey, can you checkerboard the end zones for senior night? We're not painting the end zones until you host a playoff game. There was rumor that one of our paint crew, Mr. Heath Dorning, who's also a student pastor over at Willie Springs, is going to paint AHS in the end zones this week. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we usually put the seniors' numbers on the field somewhere for senior night. We do know that that's going to happen. But anyway, if we ever host a playoff game, we're going to have to round up some paint pretty quick, because to paint the end zones, you're going to need about probably 60 gallons of paint. That's a lot of paint.
Yeah, it is.
We already use 20. About 20 gallons to paint it as is. That's without painting end zones. It would take 60 gallons of paint.
Good Lord.
To paint the whole field and the end zones.
You'd have to take off all day to do that, wouldn't you?
I take off all day anyway.
That's true.
On home games, I turn in a vacation form to take off on the Thursdays before home games, because we usually get up there at 8, 9 o'clock, start painting. Last week was probably the quickest we done. It gets easier as you go.
Yeah.
The grass quits growing so fast, so a lot of your lines you can see. You don't have to pop lines or pop strings, things of that nature. We got up there last week about 9, and we were done about 3:30.
Okay.
So it's about a 6-hour job. But this week we'll pull the strings, do it all nice, put the extra numbers for the seniors, all that stuff.
And put a little bit of extra pressure on them concession people. They may have to buy some more hot dogs and all that good stuff.
That's right. They will. They're going to have to sell some more nachos and popcorn and all of that stuff, which also means you got to find more volunteers.
Yeah.
Hey, but I don't think we would have much problem if we hosting a playoff game again, which has never happened. Just a couple of other things. Snyder ends up being the first ever coach in Ardmore history to take two teams to the state playoff. I think in 2004 and 2006, Ardmore went to the playoffs, but that was under two different head coaches. Mm-hmm. So he becomes the first coach to ever do that. I think 8-win season is possible if they win this week. They would get to 8 wins. I think that's only the 7th time in school history that has happened. And if that happens and you can beat Ramsey and get to 9 wins has only happened one time in the history of the school. Coach Cooper in 1961. That's also a state championship team. That was before the playoff era. Okay. And they got to 9 wins. 10 wins has never been done. Yeah. So there you go, Coach. No pressure. But anyway, lots of good things going on at Ardmore High School. And we got one more school left. A lot of good stuff going on here as well. Decatur was at Athens this week. Athens was up at the half, 42-13. They ended up closing out Decatur, as we've already mentioned at the beginning of the show, 49-20.
Yeah, Decatur, Athens kicked off Decatur, and they hold them. So Decatur punts down to Athens, and they muffed the punt. Decatur gets it. 3 plays later, they score. They're up 7-0, and everybody's like, "Wait a minute!" And then that was all she wrote.
That was it.
Yeah, every possession that Decatur would have in the first half, fumble. It's just either fumble or interception. Mm-hmm. But like I said, there's some young dudes on that team. They got some tall, good kids, looking kids. It's just they're young and a little bit inexperienced. But like Mr. Mitchell said, they got some middle school kids that's going. Yeah, hopefully bring his team back up to where they used to be.
Yeah, good deal. That gets Athens to 7-2, 4-2 in the region. Athens, this is always weird to me. Athens and Ardmore is almost identical programs right now. I know Ardmore's in 5A. Athens is in 6A, getting close to 7A. Yeah. Athens got, I just looked earlier, Ardmore's got like 400-something students in their high school. Athens has 1,000. Yeah. But very similar programs in regards to.
They mirror one another just because of
the colors. Their colors are the same. They use, TPW mantra a lot, do a lot of similar things. Snyder was there, the defensive coordinator for Cody for, I think, 9 years or so, and so he knows how to run a successful program. Too. Steve Carter was at Athens as well. Steve Carter, as you know, we mentioned, is kind of a defensive analyst, I think, for UNA right now. He's helping on the defensive side at Ardmore as well. But both of those programs, 7-2, both of them 4-2 in the region, both of them 3 seeds. Athens will be facing Homewood in the first round of the playoffs. We'll get to that game just in a minute. Athens got another game this week as well, which used to be a big rivalry game because they were both in the same region. They go to Russellville. Athens and Russellville was in the same region for many, many years. Athens bumped up to 6A in the last few years. Russellville's still down in 5A. But they played, I think it's about year 3. Once they got back to playing again. But Athens goes over to Russellville. That game is a pick'em. Nobody is favored. That's how tight that game could be. I think Athens goes over and puts it on them.
I think they will too. And just like, 2 years ago or 3 years ago when they played over there, Athens was down like 31-0.
Yes. And come back and won, didn't it?
Come back and won.
Yeah.
I mean, there's me and Coach Legg we left at halftime because we thought it was over. There was a bunch of people leaving. Mm-hmm. And unbeknownst to us, they come back and beat them.
Yeah. I would like to watch that game just to see what that back Finney from Russellville does against a 6A, bigger program defense because he is legit, and just see if he has as much success as he has against everybody. Fairview beat him. Mars Hill beat him. Mars Hill, I know, held him to about 135 yards. I say they held him to 135. If you hold him to 135, you're doing something. But I'd just like to see what they do against him. I think Athens goes over there and beats them by 10 or more.
I think so, too. Rick, is he close to 2,000 yet? Because he was at, 1,600 probably about the 5th or 6th game, I think.
Not sure. He's got to be getting close. I hadn't looked at none of those numbers at all.
He's a junior, right?
Yep, sure is. He's a junior. Speaking of some yardage, Riddle for Ardmore at the East game 2 weeks ago, he went over 1,000. He's over 1,000. And then we come back this week, and Hawthorne has the hot hand. Both of those dudes are 10th graders. Hawthorne had over 100 yards. I think I just skimming through Huddle, Riddle's at right under 1,100, and Hawthorne's around 700. So possibly two backs over 1,000 on a high school football team is pretty good, or at least close to 1,000. Hawthorne would have to have a big game this week and put some yards on against Ramsey as well to get there. But I really like seeing that tandem in that backfield at Ardmore. You know, one game Riddle's getting the touches, he's got the hot hand, and then Hawthorne had the hot hand against West Point. Again, Athens goes down to play Homewood in the first round of the playoffs. Homewood is 7-2, so that matchup will. I think Athens can play with them.
Yeah, I think so too. And the folks that have NFHS, excuse me, James Clemens goes to Homewood Friday night. So
I've seen that.
If you want to watch James Clemens and Homewood, just see what Homewood does for next week against Athens. Just tune that in if you have the subscription or whatever.
Yeah, that NFHS network, that is subscription based. My wife informed me that I started paying on that last November, and it's been taken out of our account ever since. And so I'll have to cancel that here in a few weeks when the playoffs are over. Yeah. The thing that sucks for local teams, you know, we can't take our local networks to playoff games. You have to use the subscription service if you want to stay at home. The last time Ardmore went to playoffs, we did take our team, but we could broadcast audio only. I don't know if the AHS networks plan on doing that or not, but you should be able to pick it up on the NFHS network. If not, and that subscription for, I think you can buy it by the game. If you want to just watch that game, be like $6 or something. But I think subscription is like $10 a month, maybe.
I think it's 12, and then you can cancel it any times.
Right. Just side note: Athens currently number 7 in the state in 6A offensively, and number 16 on the defensive side of the ball. So pretty balanced team there. And I do think Athens wins this week at Russellville. They got it as a pick 'em. I think they win by 10 or more. And then I think Athens could put it on Homewood. We'll be back next week rounding out all of these teams who still have games left. About 4 or 5 of our teams are still playing this week, their last games, and then Ardmore and Athens will have at least one more game. Hopefully they'll have a lot more games. Jay, got anything you'd like to close out with?
Well, and just we want to mention Tailgate Talk every Saturday morning from 10 to 12 in WKAC and the PAS Plus app. We'll interview all our coaches. We'll review their last games and preview if the ones that are making the playoffs. And we always usually have a special guest or whatever to show up and all that good stuff. And go to tailgatetalk.net, vote on the Athlete of the Week, and go in there and nominate somebody from your school. You know, just send in their name and your email, and Tim goes through them, and he'll put out a list, three athletes, and just go in there and vote. And maybe whoever you're nominated will get voted, and they get an Applebee's $25 gift card and a T-shirt from Tailgate Talk.
Yeah, appreciate that. I also appreciate Flutterly Designs. They laser engrave these hats we got on our heads, that cool-looking cup there. They got all kinds of gifts and laser engraving capabilities to help you through the holiday season. Jay, it'll be November by the time we do the next show.
Yeah. Time will change.
Yes, it'll be dark, like early.
Yeah,
a lot of weird change going on. But I love the holiday season, especially when you got kids and grandkids and things of that nature. But what I don't like is high school football is coming to an end. We've got maybe a couple more weeks left at minimum, and then hopefully it'd be awesome if we're still doing this show in about 6 weeks. We may go down. Are we playing the?
It's in Birmingham.
It's in Birmingham at Protective Stadium.
Yes.
We may go down there and shoot from there for some reason. If Ardmore or Athens is in the final, which hold on, let me look at the lines.
If Athens were to make it, they'd place probably Saraland in the finals.
Yeah, and who's at the top of the polls in 1A? Jay, do you know?
1A.
I'm sorry, 5A.
Uh,
Let's look real quick. Let me pull it up here. Dang it. Poll.
While you're looking at
here we go. Football poll. Go ahead, talk.
Just talk about, teams that's in the playoffs. Rogers that just played Elkmont, they got to travel to Tuscaloosa and play Gordo.
Really?
Yes.
Buddy, that's a haul.
Yeah.
Why are they matching up with that region?
I don't know.
Hey, let's see who can travel the furthest to play a first-round playoff game.
Gordo has a turf field, and they dress like the Green Bay Packers.
Yes. Now, Gordo and Tanner used to play a lot back in the day. Yeah. So Gordo's, I guess, bumped up to 3A. I remember them. Seems like I remember them playing up here at Tanner before in deep into the playoffs. 6A, Saraland's at the top. That's where Hollywood Williams for Alabama was at
and
last year.
KJ Lacey. I think he's still there. I think he's committed to Texas next year.
Quarterback. Nice. 5A, Ardmore. It for some crazy reason, the Lord blesses us. And we get to the final. You're talking Catholic, Montgomery, Central Clay County, Viger. They got Fairview's 4, Moody, Gunnersville, Corner, Leeds, just some of those teams. Ramsey. Yeah. I don't know why the Associated Writers poll is which the official poll they put out in all the newspapers. Ramsey is not ranked at all. Crazy, man. I know. Well, and Ramsey, if you go to this website's like Power Rankings, they have a Power Rankings. You can click on and just, that's based on a lot of stuff, who they're playing, how much they beat them by, all that. Ramsey in their poll is number 6. But the Associated Writers poll doesn't even have them in the top 14. They had 14 teams getting votes.
So is their strength of schedule?
It's high. They're playing out of regions number 6A. They're playing like Clay, Chalkville, some other teams like it. Like if you go down here and look at their power rating based on the numbers that they have, Ramsey is a 79.8. Our highest in our region is Russellville is 74.2. They got Ardmore at 55.7, and Ramsey at a 79.8. Wow. So big difference there. But I don't know. I mean, some guys were talking about that. I don't know why the Associated Writers poll does not have them ranked. That's weird to me.
That is weird.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they know some things that we don't know, and know that the Ardmore Tigers are going to come out triumphant at Legion Field in about 12 days. That'd be awesome. But anyway, I appreciate you tuning in. Again, check out any of those Tailgate Talk, Flood Early Designs. Appreciate those folks partnering with our show, and we got a couple more weeks left. Hope you continue to tune in.
Appreciate the likes and the follows. Post you pictures, whatever you got. Post them.
Post them. Shares. Your kids playing flag football, post that on there. Got kids in volleyball tournaments. I know Lindsay Lane, we're recording this on Tuesday. Lindsay Lane was down playing in the state tournament today. So if you got any information on those teams or pictures, videos, post them on the Limestone County Sports page.
We'd love let us know about the middle school tournament at West Limestone, the basketball tournament starts.
That's where I'm headed, Jay. I'm headed to the first middle school girls basketball game at Ardmore is tonight. As soon as we sign off here, I'm headed that direction.
Bella, good luck tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hopefully, guys, we'll be back next week, Lord willing. Y'all have a fantastic week. God bless.
See y'all.